And hello, this is Paul again, and this year I have with me Lauren from Team 6210C, C4, and Caroline from Team 6210F, Firehawk. Say hello.
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 And we are going to do some analysis of the regional power rankings from Crossover, from last year's VEX IQ game Crossover. And so, let's go right into it.
In 25th place, we have Yunnan, China.
Yeah, so Yunnan, China, that's a region in China. And it looks like they got the one world championship, which got them 2 trophies. They had 100 points in skills, but it looks like they didn't have too many other teams.
Well, so if they have 0 in the 10th place or 25th place score, that just means that there was no 10th team or 25th team. So they didn't have very many teams.
But because they won the World Championship and because they won some trophies, we got them on the list. They're last on our list, 25th out of all the regions that we ranked. With one team, with the one World Championship, they had a good, respectable one, but you just can't get higher on the list if you only have one team. Okay, next.
In 24th place, Colombia.
Colombia. So the whole country of Colombia, we didn't break it up into little regions, gets credit for their performance. They had 2 trophies and a reasonably good first place skill scores, a 10th place skill scores, and Lauren said before, they don't have 25 teams in Colombia total, so they don't have a 25th skill score. So pretty good effort, but that's why they're further down the list. They don't have a lot of teams there in Colombia. Okay, next.
And in 23rd place is New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand also had a trophy at Worlds, and they had a little bit better skill score. And they did have 25 or more teams, although that 29 is not a super-duper high score for 25th place, but it just shows that they've got some more teams in New Zealand. Okay.
In 22th place, United Kingdom.
Yeah, 22nd place,
Yes.
or 22nd, either way. It's called United Kingdom. So that's London, that's England, right?
England.
And here's an interesting fact. So they won 2 trophies, and they had some pretty good skill scores. We're going to have a shout out to our Henrietta Barnett School friends that we've made friends at Worlds with. And they won both those trophies. So that one school from the United Kingdom won both the trophies at Worlds. So great job to HBS there, and happy to see them do well at Worlds this year.
So in 21st place is Oklahoma, USA. So they had 2 trophies at Worlds this time with a first place score, a skill score of 128. They had a 10th place skill score of 67 and a 25th place skill score of 42. And over here we have how many teams are in the top 50? So the top 50 at Worlds is pretty impressive because when the season ends, they actually get a bid to Worlds automatically. Now, usually there's most of those people in the top 50 have either won skills at their own state or whatever. So
yeah,
they do have
rarely
one.
do they need to get a bid because they've done some performance on their own.
Yeah.
But that top World's 50 ranking is an impressive accomplishment. So we're gonna keep track of that and kind of show which teams or which states end up with the most teams in the World Skills top 50. Okay, on to the next one.
20th place,
Shandong, China. Caroline can't quite pronounce that. Shandong, China. So that's another region in China. We had Yunnan, China down here with just the one team. And then Shanghai, China, they were really pretty good. They got 1 World Championship. The World Championships are, there's a total of 8 at elementary and at middle school. There's 4 each. 2 for teamwork, 1 for skills, and 1 for excellence. And they were able to get 5 trophies in addition to that 1 World Championship. Just like we've seen before, they only had 0 in the 25th spot. So they didn't have quite the total amount of teams, but they had good enough presence in trophy count here to get them up here higher on the list than some of these teams below. Okay, on to the next one.
So in 19th place is Mexico. So they had 4 trophies at Worlds, pretty close to Shandong, and then they had a first place skill score of 103, which is not as good as some of the lower ones, but they had a pretty high 10th place skill score with 68, and then an even higher, like, 25th place skill score with 50. So that, like, brings them up with, they have a steady pace of nice skill scores in, like, even as they go lower into their teams. They didn't have any teams in the top 50 of Worlds.
Yeah, that's interesting, little bit of info, because we see below here in the UK, they also had lower total high scores, but higher on the lower, on the 25th scores. That shows that they got a lot more teams. Some of these provinces in China and even Colombia, they don't have that very many teams. And so the United Kingdom and Mexico obviously have lots of teams, and many of them are competing. So maybe not quite as great on the top end, but lots of good teams. Makes for the competition better, and so they get higher on our performance rankings sheet here. Okay, next one, Caroline.
Oh. In 18th place, South Korea.
Yep, South Korea is another one. It looks a little like Mexico. They got the 2 trophies instead of 4, but they have better skill scores here. 86 for that 10th place skill score. That's the best we've seen so far, right? And then that 53 is pretty respectable. Only UK is better than that, so very good, right? Okay, next.
So in 17th place is Hong Kong. They had 4 trophies at Worlds, another like high count of trophies. Then they have a super high skill score of 162 in first place in their region. Then in 10th place, not as good as most, but 44. But they didn't have as many teams and had 0 25th place skill score. But they had 3 teams at Worlds, which is way more than we've seen so far.
Yeah, that World Top 53 teams is the best we're going to see. I don't think we're going to see another number like that until we get to the top 10 of this list. But again, if you got 0 in 25th place and you got a low 10th place score, you're really not that strong through the whole top to bottom. And so you don't get a higher ranking here in our rankings because you don't have as many good teams. You might have a couple great teams, and that gets you these giant numbers up here, maybe 3 great teams. But you don't have enough teams to really qualify higher on our list. So that's where they're only 17th. Okay, next up.
In 16th place, Colorado, USA.
Yep, so we're back in the United States. Caroline, you want to talk a little bit about them?
They got 2 trophies at Worlds. Their first place skill score was 134. Their 10th place was 67. And their 25th was 58, which is pretty high.
That's actually the best we've seen. It ties UK, the United Kingdom, with 58th, but they also got this.
They got 2 teams in the top 50 at Worlds.
That's right. World Skills to top 50. Not the top 50 at Worlds, but the World Skills leaderboard ranking at the end of the season. Some teams had high skill scores in regular season and didn't have as well at Worlds. Others got big scores at Worlds. It's all added in together, so the World's top 50 is the end of the season, including the postseason Worlds event. So, yeah, Colorado, our second state, Oklahoma and Colorado, the only 2 U.S. states on the list so far, but they deserve their spot up there because they've got some pretty strong competition. That 58 is the second best we've seen. Okay, on to the next one.
So in 15th place, we have Arizona, USA. They had 3 trophies at Worlds, getting nearer to that 4 and 5 where they're top right now. They had a 123 first place skill score, but an amazing 77 in 10th place and a 64 in 25th place skills, which is higher than all the others. So they obviously have a lot of good teams that are really high up in the skills score, which puts them up here above all these other teams.
Yeah, they didn't get the break in the top 50. They're very close. We see that 128 got them in down here, so 123 was just outside of that top 50. But yeah, having that 64 at 25th place means they had a lot of teams which were pretty good. You know, to get over, the 58, 53 area, you had to start picking cubes up and autonomously get on the bridge and driving on the bridge. So it required you to be a pretty respectable team once you get up in the 60s and 70s points combined skill score. So 25 pretty solid teams in Arizona. That's why their power rankings they're up here higher than a lot of those teams below them, where they don't have quite the top end, but lots of good competition in Arizona. Okay, Caroline.
In 14th place, Alabama. USA.
Alabama, right. Another state. We're on a row of 3 states in a row. We're going to see a bunch of states here. They got about the same. Look how close they are to Arizona. 3 and 3, 130 and 123, 73. So Arizona edged them out here, but they edged them out here, and they got the one in the top 50. So Alabama just barely. It's almost a complete tie between Alabama and Arizona. Okay, next one.
So in 13th place is Beijing, China. So they had 4 trophies in Worlds, which is one of the top higher number of trophies. They had a 127 first place skill score and 80 in 10th place, which is also pretty high, and a 25th place skill score of 55. So that's one of the higher ones, with the 10th place and 25th place, just a higher end, and they're better trophies at Worlds. They didn't have any teams in the Worlds skills in top 50, but they edged a lot of the teams out with their one more trophy that gives them 4 trophies and their higher first place skill score.
Yeah, it's interesting. 128 down here got them 1, and 127 didn't. So I guess the cutoff was 128. That was it. So they were just on the doorstep of getting it into the top 50. And unlike those other, Yunnan, China, and Shandong, China, didn't have anything down here. Beijing had a lot of competitors, a lot of decent teams, and that 55 and that 25th place spot, combined with the 4 trophies, puts Beijing up there in that pretty good spot. Okay, Caroline.
In 12th place, Maryland, USA.
Yep, Maryland, USA. In fact, let's just look comparison Maryland to Beijing. 3 and 4 trophies are pretty similar. Maryland's a little bit above in skills, quite a bit above in that 10th place skills. So Maryland had 10 teams at 96 and higher. That's a lot of good, really top end teams. And then the 60 is a good score too. So Maryland just barely edges out Beijing, China by having some better skills score throughout the.
And Maryland had won the top 50.
Yeah, they broke into that top 50 with the 130. It took a 128 to get there, and so they just got the one team to get there. But that's still excellent for Maryland. Okay.
So in 11th place is Puerto Rico. They had an amazing 6 trophies at Worlds, which is the highest we've seen. They have a first place skill score of 149, which is also the highest skill score we've seen so far.
We have the
162.
Yep, but that's the second highest we've seen, yep.
Yep, and then a awesome 10th place skill score of 79, but not so good in the 25th with only 6. But with their 149 and another score, they have 2 in the top teams in world skills, so that really puts them over the edge.
Puerto Rico had some really good teams and some decent top-end teams, but they just don't have the total depth of competition. If this was 60 instead of 6, they'd be way up the list. They'd be like top 5. So because they just don't have any significant amount of teams outside of the top, those 10 good ones or 12 good ones or whatever there are, it falls off very quickly. And so that's what kept them out of being higher, out of that top 10. But the 6 trophies is the best we've seen so far. That's awesome. Okay, Caroline?
In 10th place, Georgia, USA. Georgia had 1 world champion.
Yeah, they got a world championship.
And then 2 trophies at Worlds. Their first place skill score was 134, and their 10th was 78, and their 25th was 64. And their first place skill score got them to the top 50.
Yeah, so this number is the best we've seen, right? There's a 64 down here from Arizona and a 63 from Alabama, but 64 is, again, best from... So Georgia, let's compare, Arizona and Georgia. Georgia was very similar to Arizona in the fact, but they were a little bit better in their skills, about the same in 10th place, exactly the same in 25th place, but... Right here, this is the tiebreaker. This world championship, they won excellence, I believe, at the elementary level, and that is puts you over the top. That's worth a lot more than the rest of this stuff. So, Arizona and Georgia and even Alabama, they were all very close, but Georgia gets the boost because they won that world championship. But obviously, all these teams with the 60s and at 25, the 25th place skill score, 60s. Are showing that there's a lot of teams, a lot of quality teams there. Okay, next up.
So in 9th place is Virginia, USA. They also have 1 world's champ. They have 4 trophies, which is near the top higher trophies at in Worlds, and then they have a 144 first place skill score, a 10th place skill score of 95, which is pretty good, and then a 25th place skill score of 67, which is the highest so far we've seen. So they really have some good teams up there, and a lot of them. They also have 2 teams in the top 50 in world skills, which is also better than most teams.
Yeah, this one World Championship was excellence at the middle school level, so that's very well done. And obviously, being near the top of all of them, that's why they're up here at the top so far on our list, is they're at or equal to everybody else. And yes, this 67 is the best we've seen so far, so that's really good. Okay, Caroline.
In 8th place, Florida, USA.
Yep.
Florida had 4 trophies at Worlds. Its first place skill score was 132.
Look at that.
10th was 121.
Wow.
Which I think was the highest we've had so far.
That's by far the highest. And then look at this.
Its 25th skill score was 99.
Yeah, 99, that means almost 100. They had like 23 or 24 teams that scored 100 in Florida in skills. That is unbelievably good. Florida's got a lot of teams, obviously a lot of really good teams. The 2 in the top 50 means that they just, obviously the 132 is pretty close to that cutoff, 128, right? So they only had a couple. But boy, so many teams at 100 or better, having 99, that's just amazing. So Florida, even though they didn't quite have the success, they didn't get the World Championship compared to Virginia, they, their numbers are down here, but they are up a bunch here and up a bunch here, and that's what puts Florida above Virginia, even though they didn't get the World Championship. Okay. Next one.
So, in 7th place is Shanghai, China. They had 1 World Championship, and they had 7 trophies at Worlds, which is the highest we've seen for trophy count. They also had a 164 first place skill, so yeah, that was the highest. And then we have a 96 and a 67 for 10th and 25th, which is not as good as most, but still decent. The 96 is higher than most, but the 67 brings them down some.
Yeah, the 67 is, and a lot of these provinces in China have the same problem. They just don't have that many teams that are competing there. And so the lack of having 25 good teams, obviously they had 40 or 50 teams, but just the 25th place team, not quite as good as the first place. All the rest of these things are top-notch things, are numbers, and that's why they're near the top, but they just didn't have as much competition. Imagine if they would have been 164, 121, 99, they would be way up the list. Not the 7th is not that great. It's plenty good, but they could be way up there near the top if they'd had some better numbers in the 10th and 25th place skill scores. So, on to the next team, region.
Our 6th team, Ontario, Canada.
Good job, Ontario, Canada. So this is our first state that's not a state. It's a province in China, or in Canada. Canada has states like the United States, and so each of the provinces in Canada are broken up into sections here. Ontario, Canada, obviously. First of all, look at that, 2 World Championships. They who was it? Okay,
555A. They won teamwork and skills.
So the same team won that, and they also won 3 of these trophies, I think, as well. So they did really have a lot of success from one team. Also, that same 555A, I think, did the 174, right?
Yeah.
Which is the best skill score. That's the world record. But you can see it drops off similarly to a lot of these other areas that don't have quite the depth of competition. 25th. In fact, look, we have to go way down here to Puerto Rico before we get down as low as 41. So Ontario, Canada, very respectable, very good. Top end, super duper high quality teams.
But
not quite as good.
3 teams in the top 50.
Yep. And so they had a couple more teams other than that one team that were good, because they got 2 other teams in the top 50. So they deserve their spot at 6th place.
So in 5th place is Michigan, USA. They had 6 trophies at Worlds, which is one of the higher trophy counts. 150 first place skill score, which is pretty high, but an amazing 124 10th place skill score, and an 89. And 8 teams in the top 50 at Worlds. So
wow.
This has a lot of good competition in skills that are just put them over the edge on how far they how they made it into the top 5.
Yeah, the 8 teams in the top 50. That is remarkable. That's like a good chunk of the top 50, all coming from Michigan, one state in the United States. So that's amazing. Obviously, the rest of this is very respectable numbers. This 25th place skill score shows how much depth of competition. We only see just the 99 on here is better than that in Florida. So Michigan obviously deserves their spot at number 5 there. Okay, next up.
In 4th place, Indiana, USA. Woo!
Yeah, I say. So we're from which
Indiana
state? Full disclosure here, we're from Indiana, and so this is our home state. And so Caroline, give us a rundown
Indiana
here.
got 5 trophies at Worlds. Its first place skill score was 154. Its 10th place was 128, and its 25th was 95.
Look at that number.
It had 9 in the top 50.
So
9.
So when Michigan comes up with 8, we thought, well, that's got to be the most. No, Indiana had 9. Between Indiana and Michigan, that's 17. That's over a third of the top 50. So Indiana and Michigan
Right in that same region.
A lot. Yeah, we're bordering states in the United States, and they had a third of the top 50. Interesting enough, there's actually 3 more teams in Indiana. Caroline, your team was one of these. It was in the top 60. So Indiana had 12 of the top 60 in Worlds.
If we had another variable that we could put in here, which is like top 10 at World Skills, would really put Indiana over the edge, because we had 2 in the top 5.
Yeah, there was 2 Indiana teams in the top 5. One of those was yours, by the way, right?
Yeah.
So that's how you know that was the case. Okay, the 154 was another team, your brother's team, and your team was 153 as best score. Theirs was regular season. Yours was at Worlds, which was quite a bit tougher. The conditions at Worlds were very tough. Yeah. And then go back to, let's look back. 128 for 10th place skill scores. That's actually tiebreakered out. We saw below a 128 got you into the top 50. This 128 didn't count in the top 50, or else we would have had 10. The number here would be 10 if the 10th place score was 128. So that one was tied for in the top 50 as well, and just tiebreakered out because the skills has a tiebreaker set of rules that tie breaks people out of different spots. So very, very solid competition with Indiana. They were a little bit less in the trophy count. 6, 6, and 7 were more from below, and they didn't get a world championship like we've seen in the past. In fact, I think each of the past years there's been a world championship from Indiana. So it was the first year that Indiana was shut out in a world championship. But very, very solid competition in Indiana. We know from the competition that we have to face all throughout the season here in Indiana, it is tough. Very tough. So let's move on to the next one.
So in the 3rd place is Hawaii, USA. So they have been impressive competition for a while now. They have 10 trophies at Worlds, which is the highest trophy count we've seen. They have not as good as the first place skill score, but still decent with 133. But what's really gets them up there is their 111 10th place skill score and their 82 25th place skill score, which was really good. And they also had 2 teams in the World Skills. But what really got them up here in 3rd place was that 10 trophies at Worlds.
Yeah, if you look down here and compare some numbers, Florida had similar first, better 10th, and better 25th, and the same number of things. But they only had 4 trophies at Worlds. 6 more trophies for Hawaii. 10 trophies at Worlds is the difference. Now, last year, Indiana and Hawaii were side by side. When we did the analysis, and Indiana ended up coming out on top, just barely edging out Hawaii. And this year, we have a little behind-the-scenes scoring algorithm that actually tallies up the numbers. It's off the page over here. And Hawaii only edged Indiana out just barely as well. So, if the Indiana versus Hawaii rivalry continues, last year Indiana won, this year Hawaii won. We'll see how it turns out next year. Okay, on to the next.
Okay, in 2nd place, California, USA.
California.
So, California was first last year, so California's been dethroned. There is a region that has done better than California this year.
Is it a region or is it a state?
We will see, region or state. we'll see here in a second. California, I mean, compared to Hawaii, look at that. 13 versus 10. A little bit better here, a little better here, a little bit. So it wasn't even that close between California and Hawaii.
In the top 50 skills.
Yeah. California's got great competition. They got lots of good teams. That 89 is really good as well. So clearly California, wow, 13 trophies. That's amazing. So they deserved it. And on to the last one.
Drum on. First place is Texas. They are the first place in our performance rankings. They had one world championship. They had an amazing 15 trophies at Worlds. Whoa. And a pretty high first place skill score with 147, 111 10th place skill score, and 77 25th place skills. So not as high in their lower skills, but they had 5 teams at Worlds in that one World Championship. Really put them over the edge of a lot of teams.
Yeah, I mean, this is not terrible, 77. I mean, it's not as good as what we see in Indiana in 95 and I think Florida 99, right? So the really top-end, really strong states have really big numbers all the way down to 25th score. So 77, not quite there. But it's by far and away made up for by that 15, right? 15 trophies at Worlds. And on top of that, they got the one World Championship. So that was in teamwork. If we remember, Ontario, Canada picked up one in teamwork and one in skills. And then if we'll scroll back down here, those were all in middle school. And in elementary, we had the 2 Chinese provinces that picked up the teamwork championship and maybe even the skills championship as well. Actually, Shanghai, I think, was a teamwork, and one of those others was skills. So we see that the Chinese teams really were dominant in the elementary level, but in middle school, it was won by Texas and by Ontario and teamwork and skills, and then Virginia in excellence. So China was shut out of the World Championships in the middle school level, but they dominated in elementary. So very interesting results. We see that Texas certainly deserves their spot at the top, and the California, and again, that Indiana-Hawaii rivalry continues, so we'll see how it works out next year. But we're not done. This is the regional rankings. We're going to also compare country to country.
In 10th place,
yep.
Colombia.
Yeah, Colombia. We had Colombia on the list in the state regional ranking because they're a small enough country, we just lumped them all together. And so they had the 2 trophies, good skill scores. We won't go quite into as much depth. We'll just roll through this. Okay, so in ninth
place is New Zealand. They had 1 trophy world, a first place 25th, 125 skill score, and their 10th is 66, and their 25th is 29. So pretty good.
In 8th place, the United Kingdom. United Kingdom had 2 trophies at World.
Okay, next up,
South Korea.
All 4 of those countries so far were on our states list as countries themselves. They're not big enough to be chopped up like China is or the U.S., but they come over on those same lists. Okay, going on, Caroline.
In 6th place, Mexico.
Also, bring right over from the list, so that's another country that made it right over from the list. Coming on.
5th place is Hong Kong.
In 4th place, Puerto Rico.
Same thing as there, and obviously we can see that it's kind of marching with more and more trophies and better scores. We have a couple aberrations here, some scores. Hong Kong and Puerto Rico didn't have enough teams to get solid numbers there, but they made up for it by having.
Yeah, they also made up for it with
top 50 skills.
Top 30.
Yeah. Okay.
So
on to the next
3rd place is Canada. So this is the first where they weren't chopped up into sections. You saw Ontario, Canada over in the other section. So they had 2. Canada and Ontario was pretty close. So they had 2 world championships and 6 trophies. So all their trophies were from Ontario. And then they had a 174 first place skill score, but some higher, some 101 and 60, 25th and 10th. So that really put them up there as 3rd.
Yeah, we didn't see over on the other list because it didn't make the top 25. But Ontario, Canada, and British Columbia, Canada, and I think even Saskatchewan. There were several other regions in Canada which didn't make the top 25 because they just weren't good enough. But all those other regions ended up helping these 10th place scores and 25th place scores to allow Canada to vault up above Puerto Rico and obviously the 2 World Championships helps a bunch too. We're up to number 3, and so we have 2 countries left. I wonder which countries they might be. Are there 2 countries that end up a bunch on the other list?
Yeah.
I think there were. One we live in, and another one is on the other side of the world. Okay, well let's find out who's number 2. Who's introing this?
Number 2 is China.
China, that's right. 3 World Championships, 20 trophies, very good. High scores, really good. 25 teams or more total were in China. Remember, on the other list, we had a lot of Chinese regions that had low numbers in 25. When you put them all together, they end up getting pretty respectable in that 25th score. I'll be interested to see what U.S. is in that 25th score. And then 3 in the top 50. Okay.
And in first place is United States of America.
USA.
USA.
Run it down. Give us a rundown here, Lauren.
They had 3 World Championships, which is as good as China, but what really put them over the heads is their 86 trophies at Worlds.
I think that if you add all these up and all the other ones, you wouldn't come with 86. That was more than half the trophies at Worlds.
They didn't have as high first place skill score as Canada or China, but still respectable. They had a amazing 10th place skill score with 136 and an awesome 25th place skill score with 130. So that 25th place got into the top 50 at World. So
right.
Over half, 38 of the teams in top 50 were in America.
Yeah, let's do the math here. 38 and 3 is 41 and 4 is 45 and 47, 50. So all 50 of the top 50 came from these top 5 countries. So United States, China, Canada, Puerto Rico, and Hong Kong, all the countries that made up the world's top 50 in skills. But wow, look at the United States. They're just dominating in the top skills list. Awesome. And clearly they deserve number 1 with only this score not being better than everything else, significantly better than everything else below it. By the way, that's an Indiana score, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So Indiana helped the United States get to number 1 in the countries list. And we thank you for watching. You 2 girls want to say thanks and goodbye?
Bye.
Thank you for watching.